Hey, Bomb Squad. If you're a comedian or a podcaster looking for an affordable website solution with a modern look, then we recommend Puck's Hub. With a Puck's Hub website, you can set up your new website in minutes with easy-to-use pre-built templates. Puck's Hub websites are customizable and can easily be integrated with other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The best part? Puck's Hub plans are only $5 per month. We use Puck's Hub for our website at the Art of Bombing podcast, and we think you should too. That's why we've partnered with Puck's Hub to offer listeners a free 60-day trial. Head over to puckshub.com to subscribe and use promo code AOBPOD at checkout for your 60-day free trial, and then pay only $5 per month after that. Take your career to the next level with your own Puck's Hub website today.
Dan Bublitz Comedy Productions.
Just keep swimming. That's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing, episode 276.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
I'm your host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, co-producer, and cohort, Mr. Josh Shirley. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing good. Every episode you call me your cohort. What is that?
You even know what a cohort means? No, that's a nerdy term. I'm
Okay.
saying you're part of my posse. So a cohort would be like if we were scoundrels. You know, it's like it's like a geeky way of basically calling you like a sidekick or
so you clanned up.
Yeah. Well, no. Whoa. Let's rephrase that. Two guys looking like you and I shouldn't be saying anything about clanning up.
Why? Well, I can't say clan up.
You can. I'm just saying it's not a good look.
Why?
Let's say we posse'd up. That sounds better.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I watched that movie, Ready Player One.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, "Oh, you got to clan up. You got to get on like a group of other people playing the game."
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Okay, good.
Right.
I'm glad you clarified because,
yes.
Historically, when people that look like us talk about clanning up.
They ruined the word clan is what happened.
They did. I mean, they very much so.
You just got to be like, well, all right, I guess we can't say that anymore. I mean, that's just, we got to move on. Posse.
Posse.
Is that better? I don't know.
You can be part of my stable. That's a wrestling term, when you have a group of wrestlers, they form a stable.
Okay. So these are all the things you ruled out before cohort. I understand.
I don't know. Cohort just because it's cohort because it's got the like the CO, because I'm doing co-producer, co-host, cohort. It just in the natural order of things. Now, if I said if I was like, I suppose I could say co-stable, but that doesn't make any sense, because if I would say, hey, now, and of course, with me as always is my co-host, co-producer, and stablemate, Josh Shirley.
Yeah.
Do you see what I...
Right. Yeah, my shower buddy is here.
See where the cohort just sounds better with those two previous.
We haven't said anything yet that's better than cohort, so we got to stick with that, don't we?
We do. See, that's my point. I proved to you. You were trying to be like, okay, we need to change this, and
I just didn't understand. I was just asking for clarification. You say it for like 2 years now. You've been saying cohort.
And you didn't know what a cohort was.
And I'm like, all right, that's an interesting term. And just now I finally confronted it.
Oh, that's funny. Well, now
I understand. You got to keep saying it.
I'm glad that you understand. But now we're just to clarify, to have a little fun on the podcast.
He's got his phone. If you can't see us right now, Dan's just
I'm
clacking away.
Getting the meaning. This is the definition of what a cohort
here we
is.
go.
This is the number one. A cohort is a group of people with shared characteristic. A cohort of civil servants patiently drafting legislation. So we are a cohort, as being that we're the cohort of this podcast. Can also be a divide. People into groups with shared characteristics. In the plan, elementary students will be cohorted or placed in assigned classes. See?
Okay,
so,
I got it. Like you're selling it to me now.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm there with you. I'm not. We don't need to change it. I was asking, and now it's baked in, baby.
Good.
I might start saying it myself.
All right, good. I'm glad that I've taught you a word. I've finally taught somebody something from this podcast. 6 years, and I taught you a new word.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Sold you on it. Well, we got a great episode today. We got Slade Ham on the episode, and we went through some stuff. Before we get into what we talked about, because we're going to talk about this week's callbacks as well. I just got a little thing that we got to do real quick. We had the big debate last week about Mark Masters and the accent.
Oh,
an
update.
And I told you next week we're going to find out. Now, because he's kind of a private person, he didn't give me specifics. He just said, East Coast. And I will just say that I was probably right on when I said New England. But East Coast, that's where he kind of grew up. So that explains the accent. It's a little bit of...
I got it.
So there we go. So everybody...
It was there. It was there for sure. I heard it. But we got to the bottom of that. Good detective work, Dan.
We did, and I just wanted to, mention it because, again, I was right on something for a change.
Right. Well, you're on a roll, dude.
I am on a roll. Well, speaking,
what else you're right about is that this is a great episode. Slade Ham has one of my favorite bombing stories that we've had on this show.
Good,
and not just because it's a good experience, but I like his telling of it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great story. He had very good at storytelling. You can tell he's a great storyteller. But you don't expect that this is what's going to happen for the bomb either.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to, no spoilers. We'll have to let you get into it.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to listen to that. But it was a great episode. He was a fantastic comedian. And the callbacks, we're going to be talking more. We're going to go deeper into the callback this week, where we're going to be talking about, the benefits of being, producing your own show while simultaneously having a comedy career. We're going to talk about doing, comedy adjacent work. And we're going to talk about, the difficulties that can come with following other comedians. So we're going to really dive deep into that. But that's going to be coming up later on the callbacks episode. But those are some of the topics that come up in this conversation with Slade. Again, it was a great episode. We're going to get into it. I do want to mention that Slade is, he talks about it in the episode. He's currently working on, coming up with financing for a new comedy special that he's self-producing his own comedy special. The Kickstarter is still going. If you want to contribute to the Kickstarter, you can do that till June 2nd. This is Monday, the 29th. You still have 3 or 4 days. I think that June 2nd is Friday, so you got till Friday to go and contribute to, and he's got a handful of different rewards that you can get. If you kick in $100, you can get a producer credit. I think, if I read right, maybe that's the $1,000 level. But, there's a lot of great things you can do, and you're helping an independent artist, fulfill a career goal and, fulfill a dream. So you're contributing to art if you go do that. And that is going to be, the link is in the show notes. So just look for the Kickstarter link. I don't remember the exact name of the special or the URL, but it is in the show notes. So if you want to go support art, go contribute to Slade's Kickstarter, help him produce his self-produced comedy special. That'll be coming out eventually after he films it. And with that, I think we should get into this episode. Are you ready, Josh?
I'm ready for this, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and people of the interwebs, buckle up and enjoy.
And now, it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
I'm going to Vegas. She's still in Australia, so.
Oh, that's an Aussie. Oh, that's what that is. Fucking Australians. Here's why I say it. I'm single. I've been in love twice. One of the girls, she left and moved to Australia with an Australian dude, and I hate Australians. It's like I know I became that dude. Like I generalized the whole country based on her and her choices. And y'all made a stick that comes back to you like y'all like dogs. That's just like, you know, that's. Why do you hate dogs so much that you just got a self-fetching stick? You have Australian Shepherds. Like y'all abbreviate words though, right?
Yeah.
Like all that you say, Arvile, after name.
Yeah.
What do y'all say? Tell me what y'all call chocolate cookies. Is it Chucky Bicky?
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, it's like that's where I drew the line. I was almost right back with you. I was like, they talk like babies. I can't. Y'all talk like babies. You hate dogs and you have a vegetarian bear. What are you doing, Australia? And you stole my girlfriend. What is you, sir? You did all these things. And that's where I was going with all this. Wanker. What's that mean? I know what it means. Why are you just yelling random? See, that's why I don't like Australians. That right there. I love Australians. You're good people. You're good people for a prisoner continent. You're
You've done well since.
You've done quite well, my man.
We've done well since.
All right, dude, come here. Just hug me without hurting me. All right, that's okay. Boy, I took a chance there. That was. So I thought he was gonna kick me like a kangaroo. Like a flop back on his tail. I know.
Start game.
I've got this, brother. Relax. I've been doing this I've been doing this longer than you've been yelling dumb shit at strangers. So let me handle this. Let me do what I do. Oh, make you go sit back there in the Australia of audiences.
It's the art of bombing.
Before we started recording, we were talking just a little bit, and you said you're based out of Houston. I know a few. I feel like I know some people in that area, but not a lot. But did you do any shows this week?
So no, this is I'm headed to, where am I going this week? I leave tomorrow for Louisville, so I'll be in Kentucky.
Oh.
I haven't been working out in Houston like I should be. There's a really good, very vibrant open mic scene down here. We probably have 5 different mics a night on any given night.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and some of them are extraordinary. Like some of them are running off the backs of this old legendary Laugh Stop open mic that used to be down here that would start at 7 p.m. and go until 2 a.m. And sometimes there wasn't time for everybody. So we've got a big, probably 100-person, 150-person deep scene, and I like getting out in it.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean,
extraordinary.
Yeah, that's a lot of comics. That's awesome. I think I've only performed in Houston like once years ago. I think I worked with or he helped put the show together was Steve Riviera, I think is his name.
I can't remember. I can't think of his last name, but it is
I
it's
could
Latin,
be wrong
right?
on that. What's that?
It's a Latin. Eddie, is it Eddie Avias?
No,
maybe?
it was Steven something.
Okay.
I
Padilla?
just don't remember.
That's another
Maybe.
showrunner. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe it is. It's been so long. I honestly don't remember his last name. I just remember his first name was Steven.
Well, it's a good comedy city, and it's where whoever you did the show for, the odds are you got a diverse audience. The chances.
Oh
of
yeah, it
just
was a great
being
show.
One of anything in a crowd in Houston is very slim.
Yeah, and then you said you're going to Louisville this weekend. Which club are you working? Are you working a club there?
Yeah, I'm doing the Caravan Thursday,
the Caravan,
Friday, Saturday. It's one of those clubs that's become there's only a few safe spots in the country that I just know I can go in and I can really test a new show and not have to, like, I know it's not going to suck, but I also know that the pressure's not there like it is when you go into some place for the first time and you're trying to make that crazy good impression and I got to do all the A game and I can't work on the new stuff. This is like, no, come see the new hours. See what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, come explore with me. That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you do quite a bit of touring then? As far as as much as you probably can?
as much as it's such a weird landscape now, right? Like I've been doing stand-up for 23 years, so I come from that still sort of elementary mentality of, well, you go through the open mic scene, and then you get an opening slot, and then you become a feature, and then you become a headliner, and then you go out on the road, and the road is where you work the clubs and you make your money and you sell your merch, and then eventually your brain keeps telling you, like, well, then you go to LA and get a sitcom, and you're like, that is a 20-year-old business model, and you can't include the road in that, like it's still a business model by itself without that other end game. So I tour a lot, but I try to do stage time that's valuable. I like to play clubs where I can play and work out these new shows. I also still do a lot of the international stuff that I've been doing, a lot of the military stuff. So I'm probably still on stage. It used to be like 200 times a year. Now it's probably closer to 100. But it's it's all I know how to do. I can't not work out on stage. I'd die. I'm like a shark like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, and now it just doesn't make as much sense to be on the road all the time either, because a lot of the shows, I don't know if you've felt this way, but one thing I've kind of noticed, and because I've cut back on working the road, is that a lot of the, the pay hasn't changed in like 20 years. And
not $1. In fact, it's gone down in a few clubs.
Well, and yeah, exactly. And, a lot of shows used to provide lodging, and now a lot of them aren't providing lodging, but they're not even really, compensating for it with the pay either. Like they might boost it a little bit, but it's not enough to pay for a room,
I don't know.
It's like,
I don't know how I would tell a feature act to survive in this environment. Like, I know when I started, I built a comedy club during years 3 through 5 for me. So I kind of built this, not just ability to go on stage a bunch more than most people, but also a financial sort of underpinning that didn't take me out of comedy. It was still adjacent. So I was getting to see good headliners, and then I was having the financial windfall to sort of back me up. And I was able to say yes to feature gigs on the road that did, what they paid. And I would pad it with merch even then, and still was trying to figure it out. So I don't know how you do it in a world where no one's giving you a hotel room and they're like, it's $200 for the whole weekend. It's 7 shows and you don't get a room. And you're like, how this art form will be dead except for TikTokers by 2025. It has no chance.
Oh, absolutely.
But also the digital world has made it so easy for people to, when I started the first 10 years of my career, the only way to watch stand-up was basically to go to a club. And then it became a little, you had Comedy Central, and you had MTV, and you had Last Comic Standing that came onto the picture when Cats introduced that. But even then, it was like there were only a few places to really ingest stand-up. And now everybody and their barista has got a YouTube comedy channel. So and people are watching it in under 1 minute bites. And I get it. If that's what stand-up comedy is now, then it's sort of up to us to adapt and figure it out. And if that means less time, to me, it's kind of better, meaning less time. Maybe I don't have to if I cultivate the right following the way we all should be.
Mm-hmm.
And not by playing the TikTok algorithmic games, but by actually cultivating a following, then you should be able to, instead of doing 5 shows over 3 days in Louisville, go in on one day and put the same 1,000 people in a room, do it one time, one shot, one kill, just sort of, cluster it up. And now I'm in Louisville for a day and not 3, and I'm able to stick something else on that Friday. And maybe I come home with 10 or 15 or 20 grand instead of, the normal comedy pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And for you, you talk about cultivating a following. What's that look like for you? Like, what are you doing to try to cultivate that?
So I'll be honest, the last 3 years, I think, have been a surgical, like me literally pulling open the guts of comedy and looking at not just what I do, but what's happening around me and all the moving parts. And for a long time, like I said, I think a lot of comics in my generation, right? It's probably that have been doing this longer than 15 years, kind of started a little bit pre all the internet madness. We just kind of have had for the longest time this mentality that, well, if I build it, they'll come. If I just write jokes and keep writing jokes and keep touring, eventually and then that sentence sort of peters off with an ellipses and we scrawl something. And that's like how as far as any of us get with our plans. And the pandemic shut me down like it shut everybody down, this sort of forced hard stop. And I went 3 months without having gone on stage at all. The longest time I'd in my adult life as a stand-up comic ever been without going on stage. And I booked a show at the Improv. So if the pandemic shut down and whenever it was, by June, I had a show and I was going to do it at the Improv. And then the second wave happened and I just felt legitimately irresponsible. Like I shouldn't bring this many people together until we figure some shit out. So I canceled the show. And that show was designed to just be a coming back. Let me just do all my material and see if I remember anything after 3 months. And that was that same old mentality thinking. By the time it got a few months later and I rebooked the show for September, I went, hang on, you can't just go. If you go up after 6 months off and allow yourself to do this same dumb, boring shit you've been doing your whole career, just in the name of try. What is wrong with you? So I wrote a brand new show, 90 minutes of stand-up I'd never done before. And I went up on stage at the Improv in front of about 300 people. And I just did a brand new show.
Wow, that's very ballsy.
But it was, I also had nothing to lose. Like it was the perfect storm. It was ballsy as shit. Like there's no part of me. I understand. Like it was insane. But also sort of this, if not now, when? Like what, this crowd's never going to be more forgiving. They're never going to be more, and plus it's my crowd. Like these are my people. It's not like I'm just doing this to a random group of strangers. And it worked. It worked so well and it lit me on fire. And I went, okay, well, this is maybe you're supposed to be, I don't know, this is going to sound insane, doing stand-up, actually writing jokes and putting it out there. And instead of trying to get traction, like I was really good. I've always been good at adjacent stuff, right? I'm a great writer. I was fine during the blog days of MySpace. I was always in the top 20 nationally. Like there were good things coming out of it, but it was all Stephen Pressfield, who wrote the War of Art, would call it a shadow career. That thing you're doing that's a little bit adjacent to the thing you really want to do. And damn it, my heart is stand-up. It's what I'm good at. So to be constantly looking for, and when I tell you I look for traction in every medium, I've done podcasting. I've introduced shows that bring on other comics so they can be stars of podcasting. I've run shows that are kind of kitschy and fun at comedy clubs. I've written books. I've done everything there is to do and played all the algorithmic games. The one thing I caught myself I just went, man, why don't you focus on this? Why don't you just make your career? Because the one thing they can't take away from you, I mentioned off air, we were talking about my good friend Ali Sadiq, who is an incredible talent. And Ali will tell you, he goes, the only thing they can't take from you, man, is your body of work. He goes, that's it. They can strip you of your TV shows and they can knock you off this network and they can cut this deal. But when it's said and done, I personally want to be able to lay down, here's my specials. Here's what I did. Here's the time capsule every 2 to 3 years of what I was thinking in 60 to 90 minutes. And that's what really hammered home. I taught myself to edit. I started a series of travelogues that allowed me to literally get in the guts of editing and figure it out. I had all this old footage from traveling. So that started. Then my buddy Jerry Wayne Longmire went to make a stand-up special, and he didn't really have a plan. He was just like, I'm going to put 3 cameras in the secret group.
That sounds like a plan from a comedian. Straight across the board. I'm going to do this thing. I have no idea how to do it.
Yes. So I
on point for comedy.
And I looked at it realizing that I'm like, wow, that's what we do. So let me figure out how to do that a little bit better. And I'll do it for him where I don't really have any risk, right? What's the worst thing that happens? I screw up my friend's special. Like it's not mine. So I took.
That's also terrible. A very comic thing to say.
We're lone wolves, man. Don't ever let it fool you. No matter what it looks like we're doing for others, we are lone prowling lobos.
Yep, that's right.
So I took his special. We took the footage. I went in and did the entire edit and produced the whole thing and built an intro and the outro pieces. And it came out really, really well for what we had. And then I did fundraising for Andy Huggins' comedy special, who's an old 74-year-old. He's one of the original Outlaw comics. He's a Houston fixture, but he's just a gem of a human and a comic. And Bill Hicks's old best friend. And I got to basically, we fundraised, and then I went and shot and produced and edited, and all of those directed his entire special. And which is cool. We're about to get a distribution deal for it. But I'm saying all of that to say, I started building all of these pieces intentionally, realizing that if I just kept playing the same old games, I wasn't going to get anywhere. I was going to have to completely upend what I was doing. And that means not waiting around for the deal, not waiting around for someone to call, not waiting for a dry bar, a Comedy Dynamics, or one of these 800-pound gorilla to call and offer you a deal that was ultimately going to live on their YouTube page or on their Spotify account or somewhere where I wouldn't have access to it. It wouldn't really be mine. And yeah, it'd be out, but I'm not getting any of the financial benefits to it. So why not develop all those tools? I've already proven, not just with that show in September at the Improv, but I went back 2 other times since then and did completely fresh hours, like just wrote shows out of the box. And then I've taken probably the best of those experiments, and I'm touring it this summer, and I'll come back and I'll tape that in August, and I'll release this special, and I will actually have the first current real thing outside of 4 albums and other stuff I've done. This is like the modern current sales pitch. Here it is. Here's me. And when you find it, the other thing I've done is to intentionally seed my YouTube page and everything else with all this content that I haven't promoted. I've got almost 30 travelogues under the Slade Runner label that go all around the world. I don't promote them at all. They probably have, I don't know how many views, but very few. And then another series, there's probably 50 episodes of the Slade Ham Experiment, which is my solo show, and another over 1,000 episodes of the Whiskey Brothers, which just kind of are doing their own thing. But when that special drops, and to answer the question you asked me, I think 20 minutes ago, because I'm worried, the plan is to have built this. I've spent these last couple of years building this library and this catalog, and not worried about where it's going. Just, man, make the shit you want to make the stuff that you find fun, make the stuff that's not going to feel like work. And then once you build that, you can drop this bomb of a special. And I know how to chop that into 60 or 80 different usable shorts. And I know how to play the algorithm game with it. But the goal is to put that out there and just kind of focus all the laser beams at once, instead of screaming into this jet engine of the internet with a 30-second clip every other day, like every other comic is trying to get traction with. So
yeah, myself included.
What I've learned more than anything is that if you cannot concentrate the effort, then the effort ultimately gets wasted. And this it applies on a lot of different fronts. One of the things I've found, especially with the Whiskey Brothers on YouTube, is that there's a threshold of about 4 to 5 shorts a day that you can really put out to the public. And past that, it becomes a little oversaturated. They don't have time to get legs. But also, less than that, you're not really feeding the machine the way the machine wants to be fed. So 1 short a day or 1 clip a day doesn't necessarily trip the breaker. And that means that in order to put your stuff out in a meaningful way, you have to kind of sit on it, compile it all, and go, okay, now I'm sitting on 200 clips, right? I've taped 2 headlining sets. I've pulled out all the crowd work. I've compartmentalized all the jokes. And then I've also edited down my best moments from podcasts, or my best candid sort of selfie shots, and my best pieces from the travelogue. And now that I'm sitting on 200 shorts, you can go, well, I can put 4 of those out a day for a month, and that should be enough to shake the snack machine. Yep. And what they don't tell you is those shorts aren't for your existing audience. You're not trying to appease people who have already subbed. Those things are designed to bring in new people. They're fishing lures. And
absolutely.
And you can repeat those short clips. So you can
that's
play
what
them
I do
for a
all
month
the time,
and then put them right back out. Yep. And no one's the wiser. They just go back to bringing fish to the boat.
And I do that. I do that a lot. I have a whole bunch of shorts or shorter clips that I have edited down, and I recycle them. And another, I was talking to another comedian, and I forget who, on this podcast, and they're like, they pointed out that you can archive old. So like if a clip only got a couple hundred views, you don't have to delete it, just archive it and then
Yep.
repost it.
Yep.
That kind of, and I mean, that's a great trick. And that's, like I said, that's what I just posted a video this morning, and it's a clip that I posted a long time ago. And I was just like, I haven't had the time to sit down and edit new stuff. I've got cause I pretty much record every set. So I have like hours of
you can
stuff,
look at
but
what you should look at now, though, is it's never been simpler in terms of the editing process and all of that. So I was at the very beginning when I was doing the Whiskey Brothers shorts, or even the ones for my own channel, I would go in Premiere, I'd pull the clip up because we're shooting horizontal and we're shooting 3 camera,
Yep.
and 2 of our cameras are, they're each picking up 2 people. So I've got the left camera's got 2 people here and the right one's got 2 people here. And then the wide shot's got 4 of us at the table. So editing a conversation, I would have to pull the clip in horizontal, change the aspect ratio to vertical, and then keyframe, make sure I'm dragging the speaker into the center of the frame. And I was I was churning out a lot of these, but it was taking time. Now
Yep.
there's a lot of startups and a lot of beta testing that's going on right now, and it'll all get trumped once they actually integrate this into Chat GPT or one of those. But they're using these AI tools. Bigroom.tv is one you should look at. And
I just saw somebody post about that in a comedy Facebook group.
Dan, it is,
Excuse me.
you can upload your video, anything under 30 minutes. And if it's over 30 minutes, it'll just ask you to pick the time code. And you upload it, and it will automatically spit out a vertical version that keeps the speaker in frame without you having it. It's just the most.
Oh, wow.
It is unbelievable how good it is. And then
what was that called?
Bigroom.tv.
Bigroom.tv.
And then if you're willing to spend some money, what is it? I got to remember the name of the, I've got it written down. So autopod.fm is another one that does automatic. So it'll take a show like this, right? That's got 2 cameras, and it will auto multicam it for you. And not just auto multicam it for you. It will add cameras to the equation. So it'll take our wide shot, that's the 2 of us.
Yep.
Then it will take the individual shots. Then it will do a like 50% zoom or something. So you've got an additional close-up shot. And then it will auto multicam switch that for you within seconds and spit out a finished video that is just you and I talking, but it's astounding what's available to us. And so time anymore, that's where I was just like, okay, wait a second. I am unlimited in what I can churn out. We're spitting out these episodes like fire, and they're funny. Like 80% of them are funny. We're all pros. None of us are treading water. We know how to bang. So when I've got that kind of raw footage, and the tools now are coming into play. So there's like this small window where the tools aren't known to everybody yet. And also not everybody's making good enough content yet. Somewhere in the next year, all of that's going to implode. But right now, in this very particular moment, if you're making good quality content, the tools are there to chop it up into smaller stuff and just really expedite the process.
Well, that's good to know. I'll definitely have to check both of those things out, because anything to help speed up the process. Because I taught myself how to edit, and I can edit and do all the things, but it can be time consuming, and especially when you're trying to cut it down to a clip that's under 30 seconds.
Look, if I'm editing Andy Huggins' special, right, and I know that my goal is to get this on a network and a platform, and I want to. And this is art, then I like being the guy in there with the brush. I like to be hand tooling every frame. I mean, I am nitpicky by the frame on stuff, but you're not doing art when you're making shorts for promotional reasons. You're not, that is the least artistic of the batch. That is just cookie cutter, die pressing, just get this shit out there to the general public. And for that, I'll use every cheat that falls into the boat.
Oh, absolutely. And you'd be a fool not to, really. I mean,
I know when to fall on my sword over artistic integrity, and I know when to say the robot made it.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's get into this. I mean, we've had a great conversation so far, but we got to get into the bombing aspect. I always love hearing stories about bombing. So, I mean, you said that you did a whole 1.5-hour show at the Improv, brand new, and it went great, but I'm sure not every show goes great. So I would love to hear a story of a time You bump.
So one, it's an hour is a long time. I don't think non-comics understand how long an hour, and I don't think a lot of comics who aren't headliners understand how long an hour necessarily is, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I did, and it was you know the shows that you think you have the highest hopes for, like you just come in cocky, and
Yep.
I had done a casino. I can't remember the name of the place, but outside of Seattle. And I had been doing comedy for about 10 years at the time, and maybe 9. And so
Was
you're
it-
right in that cocky phase. Go ahead.
Is it Tulalip or
Tulalip.
Tulalip.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
Tulalip. So I played it, and I had gone in, and a couple of my comic friends had told me, hey, lower your expectations. This gig is, it can be rough. And hey, I like rough. I went into this place, and it was so much fun. I got off the script. I ripped this place apart as much as you can rip apart a casino outside.
Right. Yep.
Right. It's a good show. It was fun for me. I get off stage. I'm headed to the next gig in Idaho or something. I get a call from the booker, and they go, they loved you. They said that's the best show they've had in a long time. They want to book you for New Year's Eve. Will you take the gig right now? And I've been doing comedy for 9 years. New Year's Eve gigs weren't exactly racing to my door. And those are always big, right? If you could put that pin in New Year's Eve, it's like, hell yeah, I'm going back for New Year's Eve. She tells me the money. I'm like, this is extraordinary, right? Like this is all the boxes. So cut to December. I fly out on the morning of the show, December 31st. I rent a car. I check into the hotel. I'm all excited. I get to the venue, and the problem with New Year's Eve shows is that they don't, like a comedy club will tell you show starts at 10 and the show will go until 10:30. The show will go until midnight. We'll do a countdown. There's protocol at a comedy.
Yep.
But at a casino, they had just booked this when I realized this as I walked into the deal. So I've got 8:00 on my itinerary, and I show up at 8, and I walk in, and the room is empty. Not just, empty. There's not a point of contact. It's like I wandered into a closed hospital room or something.
Oh God.
And I finally find this sign that says comedy and music, New Year's Eve extravaganza, blah, 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 champagne toast, everything else. Doors at 8. That's what the thing says. And there is no more context to it. It doesn't say comedy show at, doesn't say band at. It just says doors at 8. All these things, champagne toast. And then this woman comes up, and she goes, oh, you must be the comic. And it's like 7:40. You know what I mean? I'm looking around. There's still nobody here. Go, yeah. She goes, okay, well, let me get you situated. She walks me into the same empty room that I just poked my head in. She takes me to the back. She goes, yeah, just hang tight here. And somebody, I'll be back to get you. And I'm standing here. I'm looking around. One dude vacuum it. You're kind of like, all right, well, this just makes no sense to me. And then at 7:59, the same woman comes in, and she goes, okay, are you ready? And I look around, and I ready for you for what? And she goes, well, yeah, so here. And she hands me a wireless microphone, and I look into this empty room, and I look back at this woman, and in my brain, I remember this, like when I look back, poof, she's gone. Like she's not there anymore. I know it wasn't that abrupt, but I don't have anything in between in my memory between her saying, well, here you go. And then suddenly the memory of standing on stage, looking out at this empty, the dude is still, the vacuum's still running, but he's it. And I start talking because I don't know what else to do. There's been no more. She is definitely gone at this point. It is just me on the stage, the low hum of the vacuum, 500 seats back at the back of the room. There's not even a bartender. And then as I'm just saying the words, at one point, this old woman, and it's just casino stereotype. She's 112. She's wheeling the oxygen machine behind her. She has those crypt keeper lines and that stringy dead hair. And she sort of just comes in like she's lost. She sits down right in the front row. And then, Dan, I think she just died. No. And I'm the whole time I am still saying the words to material because I don't know what else to do. And I'm just checking my watch, and then mentally a couple of things start to happen. You recognize the absurdity of the situation, right? I am playing to the vacuum guy's put up his thing and gone home now. He's going to pop fireworks with the kids. I've got the one dead lady in the front row and not even a point of contact. I swear to God, I think I could have left and no one would have been the wiser. And the absurdity hit where I just went, okay, man, do the math on the money. Like, you know what you're getting paid. You know that you have to stand up here contractually for 60 minutes. Just think in your head of the absurd amount of money you're really making every second you keep talking. And once I got there, it became giggly. I ran out of material probably 40 minutes in because there's no feedback and response.
Yeah,
and 40
you don't have
minutes,
the laugh breaks.
no, and 40 minutes into a monologue to no one is about the most uncommon experience you could ever experience. There is nothing natural about it. Your brain is telling, kick to the surface, bro. This is not what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Play these things you wrote to nobody at fucking all. And I get to 40 minutes in and I go, you know what? I usually call my mom on New Year's Eve, and I just picked up my phone and I texted her the whole time I'm still talking, and I'm texting my mom, and there's no one there to notice. And I get to 60 minutes and I'm mid talking when I get to 60, and I feel the buzz. And in the middle of a sentence, I go, well, good night. And I put the mic in the stand. I walked off stage. I went straight out to my rental car, and I was back in my hotel by, I think, 9:15.
Wow.
It was the worst. I went through every range of emotions in that hour because it was utter death at the core of it. Your soul is being ripped apart. You cannot feel good in that scenario.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, you going back to what you said before you started your story, where you were talking about how, a lot of people don't understand how long an hour is when it comes to performing comedy. And that is very true. But people really don't understand how long an hour is when you're bombing for the hour or you're performing for nobody. Like,
you have
it turns, even for a 3-minute set, if you're bombing for 3 minutes, that 3 minutes feels like an eternity.
It is an eternity. Look, I remember Mike's when I first started. I remember a show that I did for a birthday party. I was this little comedy club in my hometown when I first started. And there were no comics in my hometown because there was never comedy there. This is Beaumont, Texas in the late 90s or early 2000s. So I was the top of the open mic heap, and the club owner called me up and goes, hey, there's a private party that wants to come in and they want a comic. Do you want to do it? And I'd been doing comedy for, I'm not kidding you, maybe 4 months, like maybe 4 months. And I'm being hired for what is basically my first corporate. And all I had was terrible, filthy material. I was just, as raw and shocking as you could be. And it turns out the private party was a birthday party and a family. So there's a 20-something-year-old kid, his parents, the grandmother, and then a couple of their friends. And I did everything I knew to do, which I didn't change a thing. I must have dropped 150 fucks in that amount of time. I was doing the raunchiest dirty. I didn't see, like, I couldn't, I have to believe we put on blinders of some sorts in those moments. And it's that Dory, just keep swimming, playing in the back of your head. And you're praying that something will connect. And at the time I was too raw to understand. I didn't understand even what could connect. I didn't know how many different moving parts I was messing up. Like, now I know how to play through that, but you just keep saying words, hoping something's going to get a laugh. And the people that are out there hating you, you just block out. That's a tough place to be in 3 or 60. Ugh.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But you met your contract, so I assume you still got paid.
100% got paid. That was the,
Did they say anything like that?
No.
It just
no,
so
I never heard another word about any of it. Check came in the mail like a clock. When I walked off stage, there wasn't a person there to even say good game. Hey, thanks for playing. Nice try. The people will be here in an hour. We should have saved you. None of that. They just let me go right back to that hotel with, I think was 10 p.m. Subway sandwich. It was just like, this is exactly what you deserve for that shit show. Cold, sad New Year's Eve Subway sandwich.
That's comedy for you, though. Comedy will keep you humble all the time. When you think you're on a roll, comedy comes in and is like, yeah, we can't have that. We have to reel this in a little bit.
You're as good as your last show. And that's, I don't care how many standing ovations you think you've gotten. You're going to face, because that was the thing about that was there's two lessons to be taken from it, right? One is the perseverance that you learn. Hey, if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything, right? It's your first international flight when you get off and you go, oh my God, I didn't think I could be on a plane for 12 hours. And then suddenly it makes 4 and 5 hour flights seem like candy, right? But the other thing it teaches you is that sometimes there are just unwinnable scenarios, right? Like no matter what you think you know, no matter how hot shit you think you are, no matter how many tools or I don't care what you have in there. Bill Burr in Philadelphia couldn't have won over an audience that didn't exist. You just can't.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. There's no beating nothing. There's
nothing to win
that.
there. I can't believe what blows my mind about those situations, and because I've experienced them too. But it's like what blows my mind is how these, when you get contracted to do these shows, you got to, obviously fulfill your contract. But what blows my mind is that when nobody's in the room, they're not like, you know what, there's nobody here. People are coming. Maybe we should wait, kind of hold things off. But instead, they're just like, I don't care. Go do it.
Literally the most, because what you get stuck with in those situations, right? It's all just people doing their jobs. So you've got this lady, whoever she was, this ghost that I may have made up. For all the
might not even been a person, it was just a ghost of the casino.
for all the good she did in this story, she's unimportant, but she had that feeling of, I don't really know either, but if I send you on your way, that's one box I can check off of my list. And I was, I'm standing there just going, hey, I just want people. I'm not, the difference between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock to me is zero. I'm here for the night. These are my plans. I don't know anyone in Seattle. It's not like I'm trying to get this out of the way so I can rush down to the house party. I'm here. I'm here to perform a show. So to not have anything thrown, it just tells you're like, all right, these guys had to write a check and put on a New Year's Eve show, and they threw all the stuff into the gumbo, and I'm one of the stuffs. And that's just, I happen to be an appetizer tonight. I'm sure there's a lovely Beatles tribute band coming on later, or whatever you put on a New Year's Eve show.
Yeah.
But
now I'm curious if how the rest of that went. Like, you know what I mean? Like if the band showed up and people came in and all the things,
I feel like the band showed up and did what they did. That one woman poked her head in to check and make sure that everything was in order. And then right at 11:59, that old dead woman just shrugged and went, and woke up for the New Year's Eve ball drop. That's what I like to believe happened. Like her. That's right when the tank ran out of oxygen, and she just kind of had to sit up and breathe on her own for a second. And
where am I?
Some dude dressed like Paul McCartney with a glass of champagne on stage. And just we'd like to do Eleanor Rigby next, and it's Happy New Year's, everyone. And then she just died. That's.
Oh my
much
God,
better show after I left.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's what happened, because that would have been amazing.
We'll never know, and the only woman we could ask didn't come back to the room. So
yeah, just kind of disappeared. That's man.
That's
so funny. Now, going into that, you kind of already obviously in that situation, there's nothing you can do because you're playing to nobody. You're just, in a way you are bombing, but in a way you're not, because you're not really, it's not that the crowd isn't with you or anything. It's just that there was, what I mean? Like there was no crowd.
The sensation oddly feels the same. I know
absolutely.
But the having a crowd to immensely dislike you does add some salt to the recipe. I remember Do you have time to tell another quick story?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
We had done a show in Houston, and this was again another tough thing to play through, right? I don't know if this falls under bombing as much as it falls under not being able to do your set because of something you did. But it's one of these. It's December 26th. I remember the day specifically because there was a club here in town called the Comedy Showcase, run by Danny Martinez, who was a fantastic club owner and mentor and comic and many, many other things. And Danny, on the holiday weekends, sometimes if Christmas was on a weird day and we just had the Saturday, would just do this best of showcase for Saturday night, right? So there's probably 6 of us on the bill. I'm going 5th. I remember the lineup a little bit. Juan Villarreal is closing the show, and Mo Amer is up right before me. So it's some good guys. We're talent. The first couple of comics go up, and there is this one lady who won't shut up at all. She's stage right. She is just interrupted, not just one, but 2, 3 comics. Mo deals with her some, but she doesn't stop. So by the time I'm pacing like a tiger, like I was still an angrier dude at the time. I was like, give me this woman. And mature me now would handle this differently. But I remember going up, and in my mind, I go, I'm just going to pop her the first thing she says. And sure enough, I've been up for 10 seconds. I hear her dumb voice come out of the wing. And as I turn to say something, this soccer mom in the front row leans back and goes, shut the fuck up, lady. And it was so beautiful. And I go, well, you heard her. And it starts a back and forth. Well, the lady is a larger woman, the loud one. Well, she gets up and starts to walk towards the lady who said something. And I am just in defuse hey, look at me, shiny light. And I say something along the lines of, look, I know this is the most exercise you've gotten in however long. Like I am harsh. Yeah, it's not polite. And so I say that, and then she turns her attention to me. I shook the keys in front of the T-Rex, and she says something, and I make another comment about how everybody in the room wishes she would sit down except for her bar stool because she looks heavy. I was just like, I kept making these little cutting lines. Well, her dude then stands up, and he just keeps getting up. And when he decides to come to the stage, he's not fucking around, but he trips on the way. He knocks over a table, and within 3 minutes into my set, maybe not 3, I might be exaggerating. This could have happened in as soon as 90 seconds. A third of the room is now involved in a full-blown barroom brawl, like a saloon in the 1800s, from a table falling over, drinks have been broken, people are shoving, punches are getting thrown, and I'm literally standing here looking at the other 2/3 of the room, and I go, so what do you guys want to talk about? There was a full-blown, so what else is going on? This is deteriorated in front of my eyes into a chaos. And Danny and Mo and a few other people come over, and they're kind of breaking it up. And I realize that I only have one responsibility, right? This is tragedy. There is no salvaging my set. The best I can hope for is to stay on stage and tread water long enough for this to stop, so that at least the people who I guess don't get tossed with barroom
don't
brawlers,
get tossed out.
that the room can be reset long enough for Juan to go up and do another 20 minutes.
And what I love about that story, though, is your determination. There's all this stuff going on, and you're still like, well, I'm gonna do some jokes.
I'm still a comic. This is still who I am at my core.
I still have 7 more minutes.
There are still 70 people not beating the shit out of each other. I've got them. These people are still potentially capable of buying merch at the end of the night. So that's our comic lizard brain.
I was going to say that is definitely something a comic would say or think. Yeah,
I can sell
There's
a
potential
t-shirt
to sell merch to these 70 people.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I lost 30 of you, but come on. I know the new hospital. Believe me, I'll go down to your room and I'll still pitch you. I've got shirts.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. Oh my God, that whole fight starts out in third of the room.
You can't. It's the muscle to play through whatever is happening, right?
Yep.
And it's you. And when I say whatever's happening, it could be anything. It could be the loud blender at the bar you're playing. It could be
making those margaritas.
Yes, that's the dumbest shit I've ever. Why would you
The
put that in a bar? Why,
shakers.
yeah, God, why is a bar inside of a comedy club showroom ever, especially in a room that I know you built out? Like, there's certain fundamentals to making a comedy club that you just should adhere to. The room should be dark except for the stage. Never paint it bright colors. Don't put your bar in the room. Put your chairs as close to the stage as you can. Like, there's so many things that you see done wrong. And that blender just and you can't really acknowledge it to the crowd, or now the crowd hears it. You just kind of, you learn to play through that. You learn to play through the drunk cowboys who didn't know it was going to be comedy tonight, and you're ruining their night because they turned off the rodeo for whatever the 30 minutes you're on stage, and you got to deal with. You just learn that
So
all
in
of
Texas,
those things.
it's rodeo. Okay,
It's, yeah, I intentionally switched it up from football.
I was like, where we're at, it's sports.
It's all,
but it's all the same.
The reason that stands out in my mind, I actually had. I was in an electric cowboy, and it was one of these in either Arkansas or Texas. There's somewhere in this southern stretch, and they're big dance hall style country bars. And you go in, and there's TVs on until it turns into the dancey honky tonk that night. But these guys were watching bull riding, and I just remember how upset they were when the bartender was like, yeah, we got to turn the TVs off for the show. What? I can't watch them ride these animals. I got to watch this guy. This bullshit. You just, I'll play over that, I guess. I'm sorry. I ruined your night.
Yeah. Carry on. That's what we have to do. Now, when you have a show that goes bad, I mean, obviously there's some things you just can't control. And a lot of your stories, there wasn't anything you'd be able to do. It's just circumstance and nothing more to that. But what do you look for, to try to improve a show for next time?
So I don't even, prepping for next time is never something I think too much about, right? Next time is going to be next time. And next time is going to come with all these other variables. And the chances are, only the deep stuff, only the deep magic is really going to apply. Everything else is situational. I look for, and again, because I'm thinking an hour-long sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these aren't short sets. I don't know what you do to salvage a short set, but when I've been in long sets, I start looking, if things aren't going the way you want to, you kind of got to stop. And it's the mental game that we have to play as comics, which is continue to tell jokes while running subroutine that's trying to solve current problem, right? Yeah. And we're good at that. You're just going through the motions. And in this case, the crowd's probably not totally into you anyway. So it really doesn't matter how robotic you are. But you should be trying to think of the reason this went that way, right? Mm-hmm. Was it the opening joke I did? Did I go a different route with these people than they planned on going? Is it where I am? Is it all these things? Because usually what I find is that when it starts to go sideways, it's because of one thing and one thing only. I had a plan, and I didn't deviate from the plan. I came in decidedly going to do this, and the audience just wasn't there to do that. And my job as a comic isn't to come in with you. If an audience is a swing, right? And it's a kid on a swing and it's moving like this, and I want them to go faster or slower, I can't come in and just shove mid swing until they're where I want them to be. I got to slowly go, okay, here's where you are. I'm just going to push a little bit harder until I get you there. Or I'm going to take you, if maybe the feature was way more energetic than me, probably not, but a different energy level than me. Yeah. You can't, I remember being I was in Tampa, Florida at Side Splitters, and my feature act was Mike Baldwin, who is a murderer.
Mike.
Mike's a murderer. Mike is also extraordinarily clean. And Mike also has a bit of a slower kind of, I don't know how to explain it, lackadaisical delivery that's fun and playful. And the first night we worked, this was like 2010 or 11, but he was featuring, and I was casually sitting at the bar drinking, not paying attention to his set. And I remember going up afterwards, and I couldn't get him. And I watched him the next night, Thursday, and I was like, oh, that's 100% it. They weren't where I was trying to get them. I had to start where he left them and go somewhere else. And that's usually where okay, man, you either started too dirty. I don't really start dirty, but something along those lines. I went dirty where they wanted clean, or I went way too clean when they wanted dirty, or the last guy was a lot of crowd work and I'm trying to do structure, or I went into crowd work early and they kind of want structure. It's always me choosing the wrong switch. And if I can just stop and go, okay, that's where we are. Now let me reset this, right? Let's figure this out. If it's a loud, chatty room, you can always, one of the coolest tools is to set the mic stand to the side and not use it. Not the mic stand, but the whole microphone. And from over here, they can't really hear you. And now they're forced to look at your lips. It changes their attention. I had to do that. And I remember Shreveport, Louisiana. This was 2005. This is a billion years ago. I'd taken the feature spot for Dustin Diamond. May he rest in hell. And I was featuring for him, and he's a terrible comic. But at the time, he was doing he was stealing from guys like Keith Alberstadt and Sam Kinison and a bunch of stuff. Long story short, they wanted me fired. The club wouldn't fire me, and they walked between shows on Friday with a sold-out crowd sitting out in the audience. And I'm the only comic in Shreveport. And suddenly me, 5 years in, I've got to do 90 minutes. And it's like terrifying. And when the MC, this is how bad, the MC was this radio DJ. And I remember him, he was like, man, he goes, I'm going to cover you, man. I'm going to explain to the crowd what happened. I'm going to explain to them why you're the performer tonight and why Screech isn't here. And I got you covered, man. And the club is like, yeah, he's going to handle everything, so it won't be awkward when you get up there. He goes up and he panics. And instead of doing all of that, he just goes, yo, Screech ain't going to make it, but y'all going to love this next motherfucker. Give it up for Slade. Not even a last name. I mean, he just threw me right to the wolves, and you could just hear the chatter and the what's happening? Yeah. And
that's something they should have been telling people as they were coming in.
Look,
like that should have been like, hey, just to let you know, he's not here, but we have a great, But
you know how clubs are, though. They're like, if we tell them that, we might not get their money. So let's get their money, and then let's make them make a decision once they've already pre-committed to a couple of drinks. In worst case, we get their drink money back. And that's how I ended up telling them. I was like, look, if you came here to see Screech, right? If this is some Saved by the Bell reunion, like this is in your soul, you need this, then they will give you your money back. I'm like, but if you just came because it's comedy and it's Shreveport, like I'm sure you did, then relax. And we made it through. We muddled through. It was a lot of crowd work and a lot of whiskey. But you do wish the club had done that. I remember having to set that mic stand to the side. I ordered a shot and a beer. I set the mic stand to the side, and then I just sort of let that crowd settle before I told them that. And then I told him the truth. I was like, here's why he quit. Here's why he left. And it slowly rolled into the set. But in every single instance, it's our job as comics to do an assessment of the room, to do the thing that you're really trained to do. We are, beyond all of the jokes we write, beyond everything else. If you go on stage as often as we go on stage, if you've been doing this for any number of years, you have accidentally absorbed the ability to read body language and micro expressions and people as a whole. You can look at a crowd and know, even if you don't intellectually know why and what, you can determine where the problems are and why that something feels weird. And if you can take that knowledge and start to sort of tool your act, all right, man, maybe this isn't a storytelling audience. Maybe I should pay attention to the fact that they laughed at the 2 banger one-liners I dropped and I lost them on that 5-minute meandering story. Well, that means you need to go a different route. Maybe talking about relationships isn't the thing to do to a crowd full of 22-year-old kids, because we don't view the world even remotely the same. But I have all of this other stuff, and if I just start dropping those minds in the water, something's going to explode. And when you get that first hint of laughter, that first thing that lets you know it wasn't a full betrayal by this audience, right? No. It's just situational. We don't hate you. We just hate what you're doing right now. And that's usually where they are. And I don't think any crowd of people at a comedy show shows up to be miserable, to not like the comic, to not laugh. No one shows up with that spirit. They get there.
Yeah, they get there. Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. They don't. They show up because, at the end, they want to see every comedian succeed, too. That's the other thing. They're not there hoping somebody bombs. They're not paying.
Some of them maybe, but not collectively.
Yeah, but they're not like,
not as a whole.
going and getting babies, paying for, babysitters and paying for tickets and paying for
Nope.
drinks to have you ruin their night. Like they
Nope.
want you to do good for the,
Yeah,
again, you're right. There's probably a couple in the audience that are like, wouldn't it be funny if they just ate a dick?
I mean, that's what prompts certain hecklers, and it's sometimes there's people in the front row that are that way, but I think for the most part, the comedy club audience, and I think this is very true also, that they are a singular entity. An audience is not a bunch of individuals. They showed up a bunch of individuals, but if you think about that swing I used as an analogy earlier, right? The speed at which they're vibrating, call it a frequency, as a whole, is something they come to a group conclusion about in the half hour they spend sitting there waiting on the show to start. So maybe this couple showed up in a fight, and maybe this couple showed up super happy because they're young and in love. And this is a bachelor party who's in a good mood. And this is a bachelorette party who's in a bad mood because one of the girls puked in the car and they're still fighting. And maybe this group is this and this group is this. And all of these people came from work, so they're tired, but this is Friday night. We got to go out and do something. You get all these little individual pieces that sit in a room and bleed all over each other. They're loud. The loud people are making the quiet people perk up. And the depressed nature of this table is sort of ruined what was a good natured table over here. But whatever the recipe, by the time the show starts, this audience has become a thing moving at a frequency. And it's just your job to figure out what that is and play with it. You can take it wherever you want to take it, but you damn sure better have your finger on the string so you can determine where you're starting, or you're really giving yourself a tough shot at winning them in the first place. It's there's a lot of math going on beneath.
Oh, absolutely. No, and that's a great way to describe that, the frequency, because you're absolutely right. That's a great point. We do have to start wrapping up. Before I do though, I am curious because, you talked about writing a whole new show. What's your writing process for something like that? Talk a little bit about that.
There's a point where you always hear people talk about your comedic voice, right? When do you find your voice? The standard answer is 7 to 10 years. But no one even talks about what that means, right? Your voice in comedy is when you no longer have to go through this iterative process of, well, I have a thought. Now let me sit down and let me write that 10 different ways, and let me flesh all this out like a good Gene Perret book would tell you to do. Let me do all the math of it like you're supposed to. There's a point where something funny enters your brain. Two competing ideas come together like chocolate and peanut butter, and you find the commonality or the difference. You go, that's funny. And it just sort of shows up ready-made in the sense that there's a usable punchline and there's probably some play area. And so like I have those ideas 20 times a day where I go, this is usable. I don't know what it is, but it's an observation that's functional. So I will sit down and I'll have these marathon sessions. I'll get really stoned sometimes and I'll lay index cards out and I write long form on my laptop, and at any given moment, there's 4 notebooks around me. I have Evernote on my phone. Like there's a million different capture points. And then I dump all of those ideas into one notebook. Here's the keepable stuff. Here's the premise. Here's the punch. Here's all these thoughts. And then I take all of that in either an outline form in Word, or I use a program called Scrivener now that I started using for book writing, but it's wonderful for organizing multiple documents and multiple pieces of stuff. So this new show is all in that right now. And then sometimes I'll use index cards once I have everything down to kind of keywords. And it's really more about set organization than it is about writing the jokes themselves. Like I have a story. Okay, this is a 5-minute story. I know there's 9 punches in it. This is going to require me to write the blanks. I got to fill in all the spots. Some of that will happen on stage. Some of that will happen as I'm mulling the jokes over on a bike ride or something else. But mainly getting the modules in place and going, okay, you got 8 minutes on this, move that up front. That tends to go into this, and that makes this better point. And now the audience should like you at this point. So this edgier stuff can sort of go right here. And then you get to really spin them around before you go into the last act, because they won't have seen you laying this groundwork, and you get to kind of do this reveal. So that's the part that's really magical to me. Like, how do you build the set? Not the individual jokes. At some point, jokes are things you just learn to write. There's like 9 or 10 different joke forms. How difficult is it, right? I know what a pun is. I know what hyperbole is. I know how to put some stank on this and exaggerate this, and when to dumb this down, and when to make this a list, and when to make a rule. You know all of that. So at a certain point, you're just laying formulas over the ideas that you're bringing to this is a new premise. This is a new funny thing. I think, what little tricks can I use here? How bait and switch can I be? What's the most ridiculous? All of that, I think, if you do this long enough, you just start to think in your comedic voice that way. And the real writing process is, how do I put this in the right order, take it to the stage, tape it, and then retool for the next time, because I'm not worried about what the crowd thinks as much as I'm worried about getting all this in the right space, I think. So that's the big hour-long process, and a lot of just sort of, I do run stuff at my house. Part of why I started, and this is really weird, I found that it works. My solo podcast is a remarkable place to run material. As we've clearly proven, I have no problems performing for no audience, right? this little nugget I picked up in Seattle a few years back. But usually what we need for, and I don't know that everyone's the same. There's kinesthetic learners, and there's audio learners, and there's visual learners. For me, I'm very visual. I'm also very kinesthetic. So to do a joke on stage one time makes it a joke. Oh shit, I actually know I can reimagine how I did the setup and the punch and the tag and the where I paused. I have a real version of it. So saying it with a microphone in your hand and a light in your face is generally all it takes to make the memory concrete for me to have something workable. So I can go on and do a half-hour podcast episode where I've got 2 or 3 premises that I think are funny. I can just tread water because it's my show. It's called The Experiment. It's not for anyone but me. And right here with a microphone in my hand and a light in my face, I can kind of run this in a way that ideas, oh, wow, I got 2 or 3 real punches out of that. I sort of shrinked up the parts that, because you know when you're saying something out loud where the dead spots are. You know when you're treading water, you're just trying to get to that next interesting part. And saying that out loud, even for something as simple as a podcast for no audience, gives you a metric, gives you a point of reference that you can sort of massage and then decide what goes to the stage for real. So that, doing it for the podcast, but also just doing it in my house where I'll turn on my recorder and I'll just hold the mic. This is all patched into my system, and I've got a 10-foot cord, and I use it just like a regular microphone, and I'll run the show for no one because I can sense and feel where it needs to be shrunk and where I'm treading water and where the real punches were. And that's kind of how I go about it. It may be mad alchemy in a but
well, I can say this for sure. I don't think I've ever had anybody on the podcast that was their process. So it's a different process. But that's the beauty about comedy. You don't have to do it any certain way. You do it whatever works for you as a performer and as a comedian.
You get, there is a trust point that you get to with yourself where I will never say, because I'm a comic and I know the truth, I will never say I'll never bomb again. That's we are bombing creatures. Bombing is how you get to how you get to the good stuff. But the odds of me bombing a whole show are they go down by the day, just because after 23 years you have the tools to make anything funny. You could literally break the tension at a funeral because you just know that all this really is building tension and popping the balloon. And with an audience, that tension can sometimes be created by the fact that they're not laughing. You just have to have the wherewithal to go, I have the pin. I'm the comic. I know I'm looking for balloons to pop. What could be more intense than them hating me? This is literally the biggest balloon in the world. And you just really, I think we're trying to all get to the point where that pin is always in your backpack. And you're never really going to be in a space where you can't find a way to pop the tension. And that allows me to go up on stage with stuff that isn't finished. It's got a punch, and I don't mind treading water because I know I've got at least one pin to get out of it. And if that doesn't work, I've got stuff that does work. We can get the car back on the road.
You got all the tools you need to escape.
That's it. It's comedy is just one big escape room, man. That's the joke's behind the clock.
Get there and you're home free. You're home free. Well, this has been great. I really do appreciate doing this. This was a fantastic conversation. A couple things I like to finish up with. We talk about the bombing, so I like to go out positive, and I like to know what has been one of your favorite gigs that you've done in your career.
Well, so oddly, those shows, those hour-long shows at the Improv, it'd be hard pressed for me to not put those last three in the upper percentile for sure. There's great stories, right? Like I remember I was in Guantanamo Bay. We played this big outdoor, almost amphitheater with the sun setting behind us and 1,000 military men. Like there's these cool moments where we had a sandstorm and a windstorm blow through in Niger one time, and this outdoor stage they had built. And I mean, you feel like Indiana Jones and a rock star at the same time. But those shows at the Improv, the sensation of going up with something you don't know, like the whole emotional spectrum of having to get them to begin with, keeping your finger on that tension, keeping that for the entire hour, trying stuff that may or may not work, but trusting yourself to get out of it. And then when you're done, actually realizing that you pulled it off, not just okay, but like really pulled it off. Like, oh my God, I can write an hour of comedy in a vacuum. It's like a superpower. And, it's not all great. I'm not going to keep it all, but none of it died the way it should have if I hadn't done the work necessary. So now those shows really, for all those reasons, the fact that they worked, period, the memory of being up there, being able to put all those people in the middle of a room during the situation and time that I was able to do it. And then the fact that the math just checked out at the end when you just go, wait, I didn't just do this once. I didn't just do this twice. 3 times I've been willing to put myself in this situation. And every time it's been extraordinary in its results, even if it's not formulaically perfect comedy, it's given you all of this benefit. So those 3, we should all get out of our comfort zones more frequently because those end up being the best shows.
Absolutely. That's great. All right. The last question I have is we have the Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist. It doesn't have to be a song to get you pumped to do comedy, but just a song that energizes you, gets you going.
Ooh, Frank Turner's The Road or Prince's Pope? The Road is one of my, it's just, Frank Turner's an old punk guy, and his song, The Road, is just an anthem for me when it comes to traveling. But Prince is the greatest musician who's ever lived, whatever planet he was dropped here from. Pope is a B-side off of, it's actually off of a album called The B-Sides, I think. He had part 1 and part 2 maybe, or the hits 1 and 2. But this was a B-side off of one of those songs. And it starts out with a Bernie Mac sample, which was really cool. It's him from the you don't understand. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
I love it.
It's a really good first track. There you go.
I'll add them both. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Where can people find you? What do you want to direct them to? Do you promote away?
So I've my Kickstarter is running right now. I'm funding this new special. It's called Signal Noise. It is a lot to do with us as people trying to navigate everything that is right now. It's not political. It's not polarizing, though. There's certainly going to be stuff that rankles somebody because it's the internet. But the Kickstarter is happening. We funded like 70% in the first 2 days, so I'm pretty optimistic about it. But if anyone would like to join, I've done some really cool rewards, including getting your name in the credits, a copy of my book, some fun stuff. So go to Kickstarter, look for that, but also my YouTube.
And we'll make sure we'll put
place.
We'll make sure to put a link too in the notes.
Thank you very much. And then YouTube is really the one place that I put stuff out. I'm on all the other, but it's kind of output only. But everything good makes its way to YouTube. So just at Slade Ham anywhere if you want to find me.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production.